Hello, and I want to talk to you today about something that's been on my mind and is related to the current events that we are seeing, and that is the current election specifically. And in this current election, and even with the nomination of Justice or to be Justice Amy Barrett, the topic of abortion seems to be very prevalent. And it seems that there is a very, very, very stern position on both sides of the issue. But one of the primary arguments for the legalization of abortion is the pro-choice argument. In that argument, people just believe that women particularly, of course, have the right to control their own bodies. That's the big argument. And also that the women in our country have a right to choose whether to have a child or not, and no government should interfere in that choice. That seems to be the argument. I have several articles in front of me. They're actually quotations in the media by different Democrat leaders. And I say that because the Democrat Party's platform actually strongly endorses what they call the right to choose. Now, we understand that Roe versus Wade back in 1973 supposedly found a constitutional right to abort your baby. That is very, very strange because if you read the Constitution, there is specifically nothing about abortion in it. So this was their decision. And by the way, their decision was based on a lie. The woman in question, she was not raped. She came out later and explained that she was coerced into saying that. And she later became a devout Christian and anti-abortionist, one who was anti-abortion, or I should say pro-life activist. And so I think her name is Norma McCorvey. She admitted that her attorneys told her to lie, tell the court that she was raped and that she couldn't get an abortion. But now we have abortion on demand. You don't need to have much of an excuse to have an abortion, just that I don't want this baby. And the question is the right to choose a good argument for abortion? And to me, I call it a fallacy. I call this pro-choice argument totally fallacious. It is based on a lie and a false assumption. And people just go along with it because they don't think it through, in my opinion. I don't think people think it through. Because I think if you think it through, you'll see the fallacy. But before I do that, I just want to read a couple of things from the internet of what people stand for on the Democrat Party. The party platform, the Democrat Party platform on abortion, I'm reading directly from their platform. So I am not giving you my opinion here. I'm going to give you what it says. The Democratic Party strongly and unequivocally supports Roe versus Wade and a woman's right to make decisions regarding her pregnancy, including a safe and legal abortion, regardless of her ability to pay. We oppose any and all efforts to weaken or undermine that right. Abortion is an intensely personal decision between a woman, her family, her doctor, and her clergy. There is no place for politicians or government to get in the way. We also recognize that the healthcare and education help reduce the number of unintended pregnancies and thereby also reduce the need for abortions. Well, let me stop there. Why do you want to reduce the need for abortions unless abortions are abhorrent? Like, why would you want to reduce them? If it's just a right to choose, why do you want to reduce them? So obviously there must be an agreement that abortion is a moral problem or is abhorrent or in some way a negative. Let me continue with this. We strongly and unequivocally support a woman's decision to have a child. by providing health care and ensuring the availability of and access to programs that help women during pregnancy and after the birth of a child, including caring adoption programs. Well, that's very good. Okay, so let's stop that right there. But here's the thing. See, we support a woman's decision to have a child. That's a fallacy. Abortion is not the place to make that decision. I'll talk about that in a moment. Let me just look at a few other places. The website for the NARAL Pro-Choice America website. Okay, NARAL. That's an acronym for their organization. The website is called prochoiceamerica.org/issue/abortion-access, if you're wondering where I'm reading from. Every woman should be able to decide for herself when and with whom to start and grow a family. That is what pro-choice is. I want to say this. I agree with that. Every woman should be able to decide for herself if, when, and with whom to start or grow a family. Amen. I agree. It goes on to say the right to choose abortion is essential to ensuring a woman can decide for herself if, when, and with whom to start or grow a family. We'll never stop fighting to protect and expand this fundamental human right. That is where I say is the fallacy. Let's go back to the first statement. Every woman should be able to decide for herself if, when, and with whom to start or grow a family. Amen. I agree. The right to choose abortion is essential to ensure a woman can decide for herself if, when, and with whom to start or grow a family. False. That's the fallacy. You see, a woman always has the right to choose. Unless she was raped, I would move that aside. We're not going to talk about rape, okay? Aside from that, the woman has a right to choose. We all have a right to choose, make decisions. We have free wills. We all have a free will. And the fallacy is this. Every woman should be able to decide for herself if, when, and with whom to start and grow a family. Everyone should agree with that. But once you're pregnant, the decision was made. Rape aside. We're not talking about rape. A woman had the right to choose. She chose to sleep with the man. She chose intimacy with a man. She got pregnant. Now what they're saying, instead of right to choose to have a child, you're talking about the right to choose to run away from consequences from the first choice. The choice is made and conception occurred. The right to choose was to not be intimate with a man. And I've about really had it with the false logic and the fallacy of this argument that a woman has the right to choose and has the right over her own body. Sure she does. And no man should violate her body. But when she chooses to be intimate with that man or any man, she opens herself up to the possibility of getting pregnant. And she needs to recognize, and the government has a right to protect human life. She made her choice. So don't give me this, a woman has a right to choose, because I agree with that. But the choice was made already. Rape aside. We're not talking about that. That's a separate case. Because rape violates her right to choose. But in every other case, she made a choice. She had the right to make the choice. She made a choice. She has a right to choose. She had power over her body. So we agree with the argument. But the argument is twisted to allow the killing of her unborn child. That's an abomination. That is. And I feel for women who have had abortions. I really do. Every Mother's Day, I think of all the women that have had abortions. I've seen 5 children born. They're all my children with my wife. I've seen them born. I've seen my first one born only 4 pounds and a few ounces. And yet, I've also seen pictures of aborted children that were the same size. My daughter has grown up and has given me a grandchild. But yet, we could have aborted her. We never considered that. But legally, we could. But here's the thing. The choice is made once the pregnancy occurs. Rape, was putting that on the side. I'm going to keep saying that because I don't want to hear any comments about that, because a woman has the right to choose. And a man has the right to choose whether to have relations with that woman. And when he makes that choice, he had better be ready to take responsibility for the results if she gets pregnant. He ought to be responsible for her in the first place for being intimate with her. But that is a whole nother discussion. The woman has a right to choose. Every woman should be able to decide for herself if, when, and with whom to start or grow a family. Amen. Let's look at some other places here. I heard this argument by Cory Booker, senator from New Jersey, who was having this discussion with Judge Amy Coney Barrett during the confirmation hearings. And once again, he used the same line. He said, we have to protect a woman's right over her own body and a right to choose. And the same thing, I'm going to say it again. Rape aside, she made her choice. If she was intimate with a man, she made her choice. The conception is the result of a choice. But people don't want to take responsibility for their actions and choices. And we always must be responsible for our actions and choices. Some choices are good choices and they have good consequences. Some choices are not such good choices and they have unintended consequences, but we have to live with that. We need to take responsibility and say, I made a choice, now I'm going to be responsible. But no, we want to have the right to abort the child because of our choice that we regretted. What about that child's choice? She or he has no choice because it's taken out of that child's hands. Now, that's just a logical decision or discussion. That's it. It's all logic. I haven't mentioned God. I haven't mentioned religion. I haven't mentioned any of that. That's just straight logic. Now, I am a minister, so I could get into this story and the narrative of what about God in the situation. Well, I'm only going to say a little about that, and I don't want to muddy the waters here. But if you believe in God or don't believe in God, the logic I just gave is appropriate for you and for everyone. And I am tired of politicians trying to put smoke screens in front of us and use these lines. A woman has a right to choose. Sure she does. I'm 100% for it. She can choose to not sleep with a man or to sleep with a man. Remember, rape is aside. In the case of rape, we're not going to discuss that right now. Those occurrences are very rare in the cases of abortions. Most abortions are not involving rape. We'll put that aside. Okay, so for those of you who do believe in God, you need to believe that life is authored by God, and what gives a human being the right to kill that child. But that's after the right to choose was already done. It always goes back to this. A woman has the right over her body. A man has a right over his body. A woman has the right to choose to have relations or not. If she chooses to have relations, she may have a consequence to that, and she may be pregnant. If she gets pregnant, she already made her decision. Now it's time to trust God to take care of that child. And if you don't believe in God, it's still the same. You made your choice already. Be responsible. Be a woman. Be an adult. Take responsibility for that. If you need help There are people who will help you. There are agencies that will help you. The churches will help you. The government has support for you. But reality, the father of that child needs to support that child and you. That's responsibility on his side, because he too made a decision. He also did, and his decision was to have relations with a woman. Now he needs to take responsibility for his choice. Men, man up. Take care of the woman and the child. Be a man. That is what I would say. And that's the discussion I wanted to have today, and it just seems very basic. I don't understand why it's complicated. It's not rocket science. The right to choose is made at conception. The right over your body is your choice. Don't let a man come near you or touch you if you don't want to be pregnant. Once you're pregnant, you made the choice. And do I have to do it again? I'm not going to do it again. Yeah. You know, I say this because of concern for the country, for our nation, what it's done to families, what it's doing to people. If we can just learn how to take responsibility for our choices. God even has given us the right to choose. He gave you and me a free will. Let's take responsibility for our decisions. And yes, I reaffirm, a woman has the right over her body and a right to choose. The right is, don't let a man come near you unless you're willing to take the consequences and be responsible. And he's willing. Make sure you know who you're having a relation with. Make sure that man is a man of integrity. And I understand from hearing people talk around me, younger women, that there are not too many of those around these days. I hope they're wrong. Men, take responsibility. God bless you. I hope that you'll think about this. Have a good evening.